Okay, so let's get into this. The source material you've brought us today looks at some forecasts that are, well, frankly, they're kind of shocking.
Yeah, they really are. We're talking about numbers that seem almost impossible. Less like forecasts, more like something from a disaster movie.
Right. And the source of these numbers, a website, Deagel.com. Your source describes it as once being known for military geopolitical data.
Exactly. But now, according to the source material we're looking at, it's more wrapped up in mystery, even controversy.
So our job here, like always, is to unpack what your source says about it. We're focusing specifically on these forecasts Deagel published for the UK and the US.
For the year 2025, based on their 2017 data, that's the specific data set the source highlights.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, we're exploring how the source presents these forecasts and the implications it draws. We're not saying these numbers are correct.
Absolutely. It's about understanding what was put out there, what the source says Deagle claimed, and the questions it raised.
Okay, got it. So where should we start? The UK.
Let's start with the UK. The figures presented in the source are, well, staggering is a good word.
Yeah, definitely. So population-wise, what did the source say Deagel predicted?
Okay, so the source notes that in 2017, the UK population was about 66 million. Deagle's forecast apparently was for it to drop to just 15 million by 2025.
15 million from 66. That's, wow.
It's a loss of 51 million people. The source really emphasizes this, that's nearly 80% of the population just gone in under a decade.
It's almost impossible to, wrap your head around a figure like that, 80%.
And the economic side is extreme. The source points to the UK's GDP, $2.6 trillion in 2017.
And the forecast for 2025?
According to the source, down to $197 billion.
Billion, from trillions.
Yeah, the source actually uses the term economic annihilation to describe that kind of forecast.
I can see why. And for individuals, that GDP per capita figure
Drops massively, too, from nearly $39,000 down to about $13,600, based on the source's presentation of the data.
Okay, so population crash, economic annihilation.
Okay.
What about the military?
Also, drastic cuts predicted, according to the source. The military budget, which was $56 billion in 2017, forecasted to be just $1.4 billion by 2025.
1.4 billion from 56. That's basically dismantling it.
That's exactly how the source frames it. It calls this forecast a complete neutering of British military capability, a reduction of over 97%.
So when you look at all that together, the population, the economy, the military, the source naturally asks, how? What could possibly cause this?
Right. The source itself floats possibilities mentioned in discussions around Deagle, like, was it mass migration?
Yeah.
Some kind of war, a plague, total social collapse.
It labeled them doomsday numbers, which seems fair enough, honestly.
Yeah, and it's not just the UK. The source highlights similarly scaled forecasts for the United States.
Okay, let's turn to the U.S. then. What does the source say Deagle predicted their population first?
Okay, U.S. population in 2017, around 327 million. The Deagle forecast presented in the source, 100 million by 2025.
100 million, down from 327 million.
Yeah, a loss of 227 million people. Again, just a staggering number highlighted by the source.
Almost 70% of the population gone. Wow. And the economy, GDP.
Similar story. The source shows GDP going from $19 trillion in 2017.
Which is, enormous.
Huge. Down to $2.4 trillion forecasted for 2025.
Okay, so that's an 87% reduction in economic output. Just massive.
The source really drives home the scale of this projected collapse. And the GDP per capita reflects it too, cut from over $59,000 down to just about $24,500.
Less than half.
And then the military budget again. What does the source say there?
It's maybe the most dramatic percentage drop, the source points out, from $637 billion in 2017 down to a predicted $32 billion for 2025.
$32 billion, from over $600 billion.
Yeah, a 95% reduction in military spending. The source picks up on the obvious question this raises, the end of U.S. global dominance.
It's hard not to ask that with a number like that.
The source makes a really good point, too, saying, like, if you saw these numbers in a sci-fi movie, you'd think, okay, this is about total societal collapse.
Right, but this wasn't a movie script. It was published, according to the source, by this site, Deagel, which apparently used to be taken seriously by defense and intelligence types.
Which brings us to the big question the source grapples with. What could possibly be behind forecasts like these? What did Deagel say was the cause?
Well, here's the thing the source makes very clear. Deagel itself apparently never gave a detailed explanation. No clear why for these specific dramatic numbers.
So Deagel put out these, like, apocalyptic figures but didn't explain them?
According to the source material we have, yes. No methodology provided for these specific forecasts.
But the source we're using, it does explore what these numbers might imply, right? Even without Deagel explaining it.
Exactly. The source lists what it calls explosive implications, possible interpretations of what could lead to such outcomes.
Okay, like what kind of possibilities does the source suggest?
Well, given the massive population drops, the source brings up things like biological warfare, or maybe some kind of intentional depopulation agenda.
Grim stuff. You can see why the source might go there, looking at 80% and 70% drops.
Definitely. It also mentions the possibility of a world war, something on a global scale.
Or maybe something more systemic, like the source mentions a great reset or a complete economic overhaul.
Yeah, or even psychological warfare, something causing a complete societal breakdown. The source connects these kinds of huge disruptive events to the scale of the numbers Deagel published.
So the idea is only something truly catastrophic could explain those figures.
That's the perspective the source presents.
Mm.
And it adds a crucial point. Whether or not you believe these forecasts could actually happen,
Yeah.
the fact that they were published by a source described as being connected to the intelligence military world suggests that someone in those circles perhaps believed something truly world-altering was possible or on the horizon.
That's a chilling thought in itself, that the forecast reflects a certain belief or mindset.
Precisely. Now, there's another twist to this story that the source highlights. In recent years, apparently, Deagel actually took these specific 2025 forecasts down, removed them from their site.
Really? They just deleted them.
That's what the source says. And it also notes that the Deagel site itself seems to have become less prominent, kind of vanished from the mainstream eye, is the phrase used.
Huh. So they put out these absolutely explosive predictions, offer no explanation, and then just pull them.
Seems so. And the source, naturally, asks the question that follows. Why? Why remove him?
Was it just an error they finally corrected? Or something else?
Well, the source does float that more speculative idea. Did they get too close to something they weren't supposed to reveal?
Yeah.
It leaves that question hanging.
Which just adds another layer of mystery to the whole thing, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It makes the whole episode with these forecasts even more enigmatic.
So when we step back and look at all this information from the source, the point isn't really about whether Deagel was right or wrong, is it?
No, not at all. The value in looking at source material like this is about understanding what information gets put out there, especially from sources with certain alleged backgrounds.
It's about seeing the narratives, the possibilities suggested by the source itself, and thinking critically about how these ideas circulate.
Exactly. It kind of forces you to consider, even hypothetically, what could lead to such dramatic shifts, like the potential causes the source listed: war, plague, economic collapse, etc.
It's an exercise in critical thinking, using the source as a starting point.
Right. And the source leaves us with this final thought, which I think really sums up the unease around these forecasts.
What's that?
It says, if they were wrong, we deserve to know why they thought they were right. If they were right, then we need to be prepared for what's coming next.
Yeah, that definitely makes you think, why did they think they were right? And what if they were? It leaves you with a lot to chew on.